they're the only men you have. You gonna go to a different planet I ain't never fucking... You getting some alien dick I don't know about? If women are gonna be like this, fuck, where you gonna get your ladies? Like, do you guys not realize there's only these two genders? Hold on, 75.
Whoa.
What'd you get, what I'm trying to say?
I went to the internet and started Googling stats about male violence and comparing them to those of especially black women. And to my dismay, some of the information he said was right.
Long story short, I did the research and I was like, oh my God, are men okay? To speak our hunger for male love would demand that we name the intensity of our lack and our loss. When I read that, I was uncomfortable and I had to put the book down for a few weeks because I didn't like that. I investigated and found out that I was so sad. I was sad. I was like, man, like, do I know my dad? Do I know my brothers? Am I my I'm sorry.
I took a screenshot of one of the quotes that Khadija had from her video. That was very good. Growing numbers of lonely, single men absolutely sounds like a recipe for more self-victimizing incels, more anti-feminist backlash, and more heated discussions on internet message boards that all too often breed violence. And this is by Kylie Chung for Jezebel.
The consensus of it, even though like I disagree on the magnitude of certain specific studies, is that we do have a problem with like male intimacy. However we're defining that, there is a problem. We can debate the magnitude of it all we want, but it's very much pronounced. It's very much large. It's impacting, hundreds of thousands of men minimum. You can't really argue against the consensus of the studies. What I will say though is that when you're looking at how to impact these things, I honestly think that you start with how men treat women. You know what I'm saying? And I know my mind goes that way for a couple of reasons. So one, I'm always thinking about.
See, that's a red flag. It's a red flag.
But at least that I admitted, I was under the impression that it was just the same thing he released. I think at this point, like 2-3 years ago?
Okay.
I want to say.
I'm almost like, why are the streaming sites allowing this? But
they pulled it. They pulled it.
Oh.
At least Spotify and Apple Music pulled it
okay.
6 hours after it dropped, I want to say.
I was going to say I kind of like them keeping the same energy, but I'm like, oh, okay, maybe not. Because I'm like, but yeah, then funding someone who's been
Yeah, you can't say anything because they pulled it.
Well, no.
About to go on a whole rant about why haven't they kept the same energy, but they pulled it. I don't know how I feel about that one either.
That's a good call, but no, I was going to go the opposite direction. I was like, it took the steam out of my sails the other way because I was going to be like, oh, well, at least they're keeping that same energy because if you pulled everybody who commits a crime, then you wouldn't have any music on Spotify. But then they just did pull it, so I'm like, oh, well, that seems like what they would do, so I'm not surprised. Anyway, yeah, let's get into the podcast. Welcome everybody to Waving the Red Flag, the #1 dating and problematic music review podcast in the universe. It's your boy Eddie, joined today by the entirety of our crew. We got Josh, we got Alvin today. Let's get into some pod shit. Y'all want to talk about that? Did y'all watch that Khadija and Abba and Preach video?
Abba, but yeah,
it's Abba.
Yeah, it's Abba and Preach.
It's Abba and Preach.
At least that's how
crazy.
That's how
I've been saying Abba and Preach the whole time I've known it. It's Abba.
Yeah. At least, well, you know what? You're making me doubt myself now, but I could have sworn it was Abba and Preach.
Abba and Preach.
Yeah,
Okay,
that makes more sense.
I think I'm niggifying it or something like Arab. I'm calling him Abba and Preach.
Jaqueline.
Yeah, Jaqueline. Aaron. Yeah, because when a name starts with A, I go as A is the first sound. That's Abba.
Oh no, it's like, oh my god, it's in the black community. No,
it's not Ashley.
It's true.
But it is Ashley though. It's not Ashley. To be fair,
I know this nigga. This nigga used the worst possible example.
And my dumb ass agreed with him. Like, well, you are correct. But
that's a good point.
Well, you got a point there.
You're right. See, I'm dangerous, nigga, because I say some shit that don't make no sense.
Right.
And people be like, yeah, you might be onto something there.
I know.
Ashley does start with an A.
This nigga really spitting right now. Like, what's going on?
Yo, hey, yo, hold on. Let that nigga cook.
When Khadija put out the first video, I watched it and was like, oh, this is because Foreign had recommended that they come on this podcast. And I was like, oh, I've liked their content a fair bit. So I'm like, as I'm watching it, I'm like,
You talking about Abba and Preacher Khadijah?
Khadijah. So I like Khadijah's video because I was like, it's not super divisive. Like a lot of like bread to be leftist motherfuckers is very divisive content. But what Khadijah was saying was very much like men are lonely, and although we do have a lot of this niggas ain't shit discourse.
Y'all, I'm not gonna lie. It felt like anything men did, we were like, what? Why are you breathing?
Dynamite's gonna make everything all right.
Euphoria, shut the f up. I know that was you. I ain't even gotta look.
God, we were ruthless. Ruthless. We were ruthless.
There's space here to be like, but that doesn't make it great that this is the situation that people are in, and ultimately half the population is niggas, and these are our brothers, our partners, our fathers, our children, etc., and it hurts to not be able to connect. That's a bad thing. So I think they came in there with a lot of empathy for it. That said, Abba and them, what they were saying also made a fair bit of sense too. I think at the end they got kind of unnecessarily antagonistic.
When I hear ladies talk, they sound like they're the masters of emotion. No, you're the masters of talking about them. Doesn't mean you've mastered them. Even though they're like less than 1% of the population, every woman's ex-boyfriend is a narcissist. They got some kind of mental health disorder. Every single one of them. And they're not even being hyperbolic. They're serious. I one time told her she dated 3 narcissists. Do you understand? Do you understand the odds of that possibility?
Yo, that's fucked up.
Like, bitch, sign up for the lottery because you gonna win, apparently.
Yeah, well, with those odds, yeah, absolutely.
You dated 3 narcissists in a row?
In a row.
It's like...
I don't know what's wrong with me. I just attract them. Jesus fucking...
Really? Are you sure?
Lady.
Come on, bruh. Like, they do all this outward projection of, like, mental health stuff and analyzing emotions, and he gaslit me, and there was manipulation involved and all this other stuff. And you ask them, like, when have you engaged that? Never. You've never manipulated a man? No.
So what did both sides say, if you could give a synopsis?
So Khadijah's video was titled, like, the menzies are lonely, should we give a fuck? Throughout that whole video, it's men are lonely, should we care? Here are the ways that men have been problematic to women. Here are the ways that men have been socialized negatively that divide them against themselves. And then
Brothers, uncles, cousins, best friends, gay or straight, queer, whatever. If you're socialized as a boy, that socialization ends up having a lot more to do with how in control can you be? How dominant can you be? How much of a quote man can you be? Then how are you as a person? How do you feel? Who are you?
the big talking points were like, women do well when they're single. They do better than men when they're single. In fact, they maybe do better than women who are married. And those were the main big points, which is that like niggas are lonely and women are doing fine by themselves. But then they went into this whole like, but also like we shouldn't be celebrating the fact that niggas are kind of like in a bad situation. And men are kind of socialized in a way that sometimes makes them divided against women, et cetera, et cetera. Abe and Preach basically replied to that by saying, one, the study that's being cited here looks like it's actually misrepresenting some stuff, and it doesn't look like it's that men do better in marriages and women do worse than being single in marriages. It's that everybody does worse single, but men do significantly worse when single. And so marriage benefits women, but not as much as it benefits men.
Every statistical number shows that you're going to do worse off if you're by yourself. The only difference is women do slightly worse. So why are you celebrating that? This is akin to 2 people fucking drowning and one looking at the other and be like, well, you're drowning faster. Bitch, you all gonna die. They're the only men you have. You gonna go to a different planet I ain't never fucking... You getting some alien dick I don't know about? If women are gonna be like this, fuck, where you gonna get your ladies? Like, do you guys not realize there's only these 2 genders? Hold on, 75.
Whoa.
What'd you get what I'm trying to say? There's only these 2 sexes, right?
Thank you.
We only have each other.
Everybody that I've seen that was talking about I'm good alone, that was cis and heterosexual, and that was a woman, eventually they're like, yeah, but it'd be nice. Eventually they're like, yeah, but it'd be nice. But I'm good. Unfortunately, the way the world works, you have to be 2.
Yep.
Groceries, having a roof over your head, kids, raising kids, it's better with 2 motherfuckers. It's just like that. But hey,
it seems to be the argument that they were making, or at the very least that the study wasn't well constructed, which I'm very open to that being a possibility.
And I guess just to throw a little bit more context in it, I do want to commend Khadija because, like you said, like her content wasn't adversarial or wasn't divisive. Mm-hmm. The only problem I had with some of it was that at times her characters or the characters that she does and the you know what I'm saying, all that stuff, when she was referring to men or boys, you know, it's like, really, you know what I'm saying?
Wait,
like,
which thing specifically?
I just did it. Like, I literally did it.
Oh.
How do you feel? Who are you? Who are you discovering yourself to be? How do you choose to express yourself? Let's talk.
You know, the Menzies, like that kind of like caricature or the character that she does sometimes. It came off a little bit
condescending.
Damn. Yes, thank you so much. We get my words at the worst possible moments. But yes, condescending, pitiable. On Abba and Preacher's side, at the very beginning of that video, give her a shout out to say that she was very thoughtful in her words and that you should go and check out her video, before you listen to our opinions. These are just our opinions, so go and check out her content, go check out, the video itself. So they started off very, very much so like that, and they did not get crazy or say anything disrespectful to her in particular that I caught. But it's very unfortunate because apparently Khadija did catch a lot of flack or heat. Because Abba and Preach actually did kind of ended up misrepresenting a little bit of what Khadija was saying. They made it sound like Khadija was actually just holding up these statistics about women being happier and whatnot, being single, like that was fact. That was the message that she was pushing, when in fact it's not. And I think that was what got misrepresented in Abba and Preach's video.
Definitely. And the other thing is, like, I although I do disagree with a fair bit of Abba and Preach's stuff, I'm not really like. I would say they're not insane. Like they do plenty of stuff that I'm like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I see where you're coming from there. And so I don't want to come at it too antagonistic, but it feels like Khadijah's pointing out like a study that's being that's referencing like incel red pill talking points that have already been being talked about. Like there's a large group of people that are men that are podcasters talking about men being lonely, and Khadija is just referencing a study that's in line with that and the anecdotal conversation that's already happening around that. So the fact that like the study might have been somewhat bullshit doesn't, like, we can't act like they're not responding to a conversation that is actually already being had by people like Abba and Preach. So it just seemed a little bit disingenuous to act like, oh, look, they've cited this completely fake study, and it's like, yeah, but everybody's already talking about the loneliness epidemic of men. We're all talking about that. Like, it comes up constantly. So why are we acting like we don't know what's going on because an exaggerated, poorly represented study happened to be involved in the conversation? Which I think is fair. Like, I'm not trying to let somebody get away with that, but we've been talking about this. So
and they keep saying, "Are the men's okay?" It's like, no, the fuck they are. No, we are not okay, and the women ain't either. Like, nobody's okay. The gays, the theys, thems might be doing a little bit better.
I don't think they are.
Nobody's okay.
Nah. The hays, theys, and gays is not. No. I think it ends up equal. Like, I think the people who are probably doing the best, if I had to guess, I feel like straight women is probably doing the best.
In terms of what?
White men. It's white men.
White men?
Yeah, it's white men.
In terms of what though?
Wait, across the board?
In terms of every single metric outside.
Wait, every single? Okay, outside of it.
Which I said outside of, thank you. Yeah. Outside of like this one magical study or two, because there are multiples, I don't want to misrepresent it that poorly. But there are a few studies that say like, oh, like X percentage of men aren't having sex and they're lonely, like, which I think is, as I've stated on this podcast, I think that there's a lot of issue with
misrepresented,
misrepresentation with how broad and sweeping those statements are. But I would say, like, if you take away that, like, white men have the highest average income. They are very close to the top in life expectancy. They have very good health outcomes. They are less likely to go to jail for bullshit. They're less likely to die because of bullshit like police brutality and like all that kinds of stuff. It's like,
true, but that group intersects. See, because you said white men, is that intersecting with gay white men and male presenting, born as men, white theys and such and such?
I would say cis hetero white males, and I will say that's a fair call out. When I say white men, like you, for better or for worse, and I think that it's honestly worse for a lot of reasons. You typically that typically is what you mean. You typically mean cis het white males. Because
I also think there's a conversation to be had about like if you're gay, if you're non-binary, but you're also white, or any of those other things. I feel like those they're difficult to parse. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
like if you're white and gay, it's like, are you doing that bad? Probably not.
But I'm not even sure if that is what they or even I was necessarily referring to in the context of this conversation, or when that question is asked.
Probably not.
Are the guys or the men's okay?
Definitely not.
It's like, are we emotionally okay? Do we know how to express ourselves? Are we allowed to express ourselves?
Yes.
It's not just about like the financial status and a lot of the tangible external stuff.
That's why I say straight women.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, right? You have a group of people in the Western world that are the majority. If like they wanted to change something, if they wanted to do something differently, like they could. I think that when you're having situations, like for a fact,
we overestimate
I think when you're
people's
having those
ability to spontaneously mobilize. But go ahead.
I think you're underestimating people's ability to spontaneously mobilize. But that's not even what I'm saying. I'm saying that like at the end of the day, when you have a hegemon in a society, right? When you have a group that like runs something, even disproportionately to like their sheer number, right? Because white males are a plurality. They're not even a majority, right? Mm-hmm. So like their group is a plurality in the States and in most of the Western world, at least, right? So like if you have a group that can like outsize their influence based on historical context and all that kind of stuff, if they wanted to be able to say like emotionally do things, who could fucking check them? Like who could be like, oh well like the way that you emotionally express yourself isn't indicative of masculinity and all that kind of stuff. I feel like we're underrepresenting the fact that like that particular group, which is why I spotlighted them, could move the needle on a lot of shit, and they're electing not to. I do think that there's a completely different playing field when you talk about say like cis-het black men. I think that's completely different. I think we have different expectations, and I don't think we have the same level of structural and societal like hegemony to move the needle on certain stuff. But cis-het white men definitely do.
So I think I disagree, but I'm gonna try and approach this from a less antagonistic perspective because I'm not 100%. So if you are saying that white men as a group that moves together, perhaps to some extent, it seems like you're implying, if they wanted to, they could. So why do you think they don't?
So for the same reason, I think a lot of people hold up pillars that like overall like hurt them. It's because they're not looking at stuff like holistically. They're not looking at stuff from a lens of future state. They're looking at the short-term benefits versus the long-term benefits, which is why you have people, even women, even like holding up, say, like certain elements of patriarchy, right? Sure. So I think that while they could, they don't, because they're looking at the short-term gains versus the long-term like future state. And I also think that them not doing that is not because they can't. It's because they are, again, just being short-sighted.
That I feel like that kind of proves the point that they're not all right. Like, why would you uphold a system knowingly and willingly that is hurting you and the rest of your kind? Like, there's something wrong there. Like, so I don't think they are okay.
I think your point was fine. That's not when I brought up cis-het white male. We we literally asked like who was doing the best, and then Eddie said straight women. And I said, no, cis-het
I would say lesbian women, honestly.
That's what I said. Yeah. So,
okay.
And I think Josh has brought that up like twice during this point. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying even if white guys are participating in this system that doesn't do them service because they see benefits in the short term for them, I don't think that discounts sort of the point of whether or not they're actually doing okay mentally, because that's true for everybody. Like everybody could probably support us. That's like saying like if all the poor white people in America wanted to like increase welfare, they probably could mobilize and they probably could get that needle moved like quite a bit. They don't, because they're invested in a system that harms them. That doesn't mean they're like okay.
But who's in the position to do that best? Who's in I will like brief tangent. I will say that like I understand like if we're having a conversation about like the emotional welfare of the situation, all that kind of stuff. I initially did not address that. I initially went on stuff that I feel to be more objective, because I think emotional well-being is very much a subjective thing. Like there are people who would say like I'm not subjectively emotionally well, and my subjective opinion is that I'm healthy as fuck. So like I think that like I went objective specifically for that
we need to
reason.
do an episode on that sentence, but all right, go ahead.
Yeah. So I did a objective like lean specifically for that, because I feel like
it just wasn't what we were talking about.
Yep. I think that you
Like
can
we
make
said,
the case that
the weather's lovely.
I think that you
today.
can
said,
again.
well,
I think that you can make the case that objective health metrics are a part of like your subjective health and well-being, which is why I said that. But I understand that that's not what you were talking about. I understand that that's not what you meant, even though like I still disagree that it was irrelevant to the topic. But even in regards to what you're just saying right now, I think that there stands to reason that Black people, say for example, could mobilize and do X, Y, Z. I think that white cishet males are in a better position, like if they decided to mobilize to move the needle, like versus basically any other group in the West. Like that's
the patriarchy. I mean, those are the archetypes of the patriarchy in a sense.
That was my point of saying that. But I do understand that like you had an angle that I was not addressing. If I'm putting my argument into the context of your argument, as I understand it, I still agree with my point, but I do understand that we started this premise completely differently.
Well, fair enough. But the entire context of what we were talking about in like that sentence of are the men okay? Like when women say that, when gays, theys, them say that to each other, oh my God, are the straights okay? They say, like, are the straights okay? Are the men okay? Like, they're better, you know what I'm saying? And like, so that's kind of where I was coming from. It's not necessarily, they don't mean it from a financial position or a status in life. That's not what they're saying. And I think that's where me and Eddie was coming from. But I mean, I get your point too, because ultimately
I just think all of that. I think all of that is connected. I think that like, so I say 100% all the time that like my mental health would be much worse if I was not financially secure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Maslow's hierarchy. Like so like I understand that we approach that very different angles, but I still have the same opinion, even though we've met in the middle on the angle.
Now, do you think all, because lots of different things contribute, and I'd like to, after this couple of points, actually get back to talking about what the fuck we're meant to be talking about. But I think that there's lots of different things that contribute to a person's well-being. Do you think that women are worse off because of that difference in money? Not just worse off on that one metric, but that their general well-being is worse off emotionally than men, all things considered?
If I'm putting all of the stuff that I'm thinking that I think 100% directly correlates to your mental health, I'm putting Black men at the bottom.
No. The mental health.
I'll say it right. If I'm going strictly like from a cishet perspective, right? I'm gonna say cishet white men, cishet white women, black men, because like
on what metric? No, but just to clarify, on
a holistic scale of how those people are doing in regards to financial and health, right?
Okay, wait. So this is what I'm trying to clarify. Like, I think we're using like an aggregate of all the proxies, and I'm talking about the thing that those things are a proxy for. So we're saying, like, is the emotional well-being of each of those groups, how is that stacked? Not the things that we're using as proxies to calculate it, not the things that might help it, because I'm saying somebody might be really rich, and that does boost their emotional well-being, but their emotional well-being is still much lower than somebody who's poorer than them. So if you were to average all that shit together, it would look like the rich person is doing better emotionally but you'd be measuring it wrong.
I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that for all of those groups, I think all of those things are a direct, not like necessarily a proxy. I think that those are direct, not one-to-one, because nothing's one-to-one, but nearly one-to-one correlates in like how well people are doing, like from a mental health perspective, which I think is again a direct measure of how you're doing emotionally. And I think that once you get all of those things in totality, because I think again mental and emotional health are a totality thing, that's where I'm going with that. Like, and I like that's not a fact. Like, I'm not positing like how I'm viewing that as a fact. I'm just explaining my logic and my rationale.
Your view
and why I don't think I'm completely off base, because we're talking about something completely subjective at this particular point, which I've tried to kind of drive home. But my subjective opinion, I think it makes sense. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's more right than yours, but I will fight that it doesn't not make sense that I'm placing a bunch of things that 100% impact your mental health and using that to gauge emotional well-being and health, however we want to define it subjectively.
Okay, yeah. So Yeah, with regard back to the video, like, I mean, I didn't take too much offense at it. Did you found it dismissive and condescending a bit?
Yeah, no, I didn't really find it too divisive or anything like that. I wasn't offended or anything like that. The only thing that kind of was rubbing me just the wrong way, just a little bit, was just the caricatures and the character thing that she was doing when she would refer to men. I just felt that was like condescending.
I've been talking with my little brother a little bit more. He's just been opening up more, and it's so nice. I'm like, you have somebody to talk to. It's me. You know,
But that could just be her personality, and I don't know her like that. But she does have an audience that strongly advocates that she does criticize both men and women. So she's not just on some like, oh, men hating, women bashing shit, or just some pick me type stuff.
Nah, yeah, I can't disagree with that. I took it as a little bit like like a bit tongue in cheek. You know what I mean? Like not on some like, oh fuck men, but more on a like almost like poking fun at the way people talk about it. Like not all the way, but almost like, we kind of dismiss this and we kind of talk like this, but actually low key, these are like the people in our lives that like we deeply need to give and exchange love with. So like low key, it's something to kind of take seriously. And like when I talk to my brother, when I talk to my son, when I talk to my father, these are people that I want to connect with. And if they're not doing okay, that actually is kind of important. So I get where Khadija's coming from.
was talking to this dude, and he was out here trying to tell me all these stats about how terrible men's lives are, and I was scared he was a men's rights activist, and I was just like, oh my God, what is happening? And then I tried to look up information at first, not because I thought he was right, but because I wanted to prove him wrong.
So, I went to the internet and started Googling stats about male violence and comparing them to those of especially black women, and to my dismay, some of the information he said was right.
Long story short, I did the research and I was like, oh my God, are men okay? And one of the books that came up in the research that was recommended was this one, The Will to Change, Men, Masculinity, and Love. And so I started reading it, and the first thing that stuck out to me, the first thing that Bell Hooks had the nerve to say,
to speak our hunger for male love would demand that we name the intensity of our lack and our loss.
When I read that, I was uncomfortable, and I had to put the book down for a few weeks because I didn't like that. I was activated. But thankfully I had, listened to Brene Brown, and I was like, when you get hooked, that's what she calls it, when you get emotionally hooked, investigate, try and see what's up. So I investigated and found out that I was so sad. I was sad. I was like, man, do I know my dad? Do I know my brothers? Am I my I'm sorry.
But I took a screenshot of one of the quotes that Khadija had from her video. That was very good.
Oh, that's great. This motherfucker came prepared.
Hey man, you know what? If we want to take this bitch to the next level, we might actually have to start preparing for this motherfucker.
Let's next level it. Let's next level it. Screen caps. Let's read what you did. That's what I'm saying. The initiative.
Right.
This nigga's going places.
This nigga's going places. That boy's good.
It's a plaque on the wall waiting for this nigga.
So we got the quote was, growing numbers of lonely single men absolutely sounds like a recipe for more self-victimizing incels, more anti-feminist backlash, and more heated discussions on internet message boards that all too often breed violence. And this is by Kylie Chung for Jezebel.
I mean, yeah.
And I have thoughts. If Eddie doesn't have anything,
no, go for it.
I have
heard your thoughts since '93, nigga. Let's do it.
When you're looking at social science studies, and you don't know methodology, you kind of have to go on the consensus of what stuff says, and the consensus of it, even though I disagree on the magnitude of certain specific studies, is that we do have a problem with male intimacy. However, we're defining that in the context of this podcast, or how they're defining it in those particular studies, that is a thing. There is a problem. We can debate the magnitude of it all we want, but it's very much pronounced. It's very much large. It's impacting, hundreds of thousands of men minimum. There we go. That's in and of itself. You can't really argue against the consensus of the studies. What I will say though is that when you're looking at how to impact these things, I honestly think that you start with how men treat women. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
and I know my mind goes that way for a couple of reasons. So one, I'm always thinking about if I have bad metrics overall, right? Let's say I have bad mental health metrics like for society overall, right? I'm looking at what like the lowest common denominators are. Usually when you look at that globally, it's women. So you can raise that score most quickly by just like helping women, right? But also I think that same logic applies when you're talking about like men being lonely, right? Why are they lonely? Like it's probably because they're a certain type of nigga, man. Maybe they should learn how to, in certain situations, look at how that particular group treats women. And I know that you can also flip that back on the same, like on its head and say like, well, maybe they treat women this way because they feel mistreated by women in certain groups. But I think that it's usually not the case. I think it's usually a group of men that want women to fit into this certain patriarchal kind of archetype, and they can't fulfill their angle of that patriarchal archetype. So they get left behind, and then they start to resent women in the context of that patriarchal status. So I think that if you start trying to treat men to take onus in those situations on how they treat women, on how they move within society, and how they address the issues of patriarchy, that I think that what is actually noted as a problem via the consensus of the study will actually become a little bit better. Hot take, but those are my quick notes, very superficial.
That's a pretty warm take. I feel like that's a pretty very well reasoned. That's medium rare. I'm a little bit curious though, and this is just an idea. I'm not sure that I think this yet, but it seems like there's a little bit of, and you hinted at it, that it's like we've become very critical, reasonably, of like the category men, which is like a social category. Like it's not like a physical category. It's like it's a group of people who identify as that thing. And the issue is we're breaking that down, but there's still all of these people who identify as it. I mean, the three of us all identify as this group, but we're starting to break it down in a way that's a little bit lopsided, and not lopsided in like a wrong way, but just it seems like there's one group of people who has really like started to break this down and look at it and what does it really mean and what role do cis heterosexual men have in society, and the other side is still just kind of holding on to that identity in a very traditional way. And so they feel attacked because they go, somebody looking at manhood and masculinity in this way is almost an attack on me. And then, and this is the point that you made, it feels like a lot of niggas are in a position where they are still holding on to a structure that either doesn't exist or they don't have access to, which is the traditional patriarchal shit of they make money, they've got status within society, and that's their draw towards women. Whereas like with wealth inequality, et cetera, niggas don't really have that access that they did anymore. And women have much more like freedom to move in society. So niggas are like, well, hold on, I still got to pay for dates, but I don't have as much money, and she's actually making more money than me, and actually I don't have a college education, and I'm not really sure what to do here, and I don't have the job that I was supposed to have and the degree that I was supposed to have, but I'm still a man. What is my role in society meant to be here?
And the response to that is often harsh.
Oh, how do you mean?
The response to a man being in that position is often harsh. Like he's not going to be coddled or like made to feel like it's okay, like, just be you. In a sense, like it's like, nah, nigga, you gotta go out there and you gotta make something happen. You gotta
hustle and grind. Nobody owes you shit.
You better get no excuses.
Yeah, and that's what I was, and that was the bit that I'm curious about, because then I'm going, well, is it possible that, because it's not like women are dismantling the gender-based systems and men are all upholding them. It's like it's folks on both sides doing both of those things. So I think there's a lot of niggas who are going, hey, so there's this system. I can't really hold up my side of the bargain, but I'm still expected to fulfill my role, not just by myself, not just by other men, but also by women. That I'm expected to be an earner or be this baller or be these things. So that's the one side, which I guess is red pilly or whatever. But then on the other, I'm like, it goes back to a thing that we've talked about a bunch. It's like, cool, you don't have access to that thing anymore. The category of men has completely fucking changed. The six-packed Don Draper, 6 foot tall, has no emotional challenge but plenty of money in the bank, and therefore has the right to own property, and therefore has access to a wife. That archetype no longer exists. So your role here is now you actually have to be likable. You have to be a good partner. You can't use the economic and social sort of system that used to exist to find yourself a partner anymore. And so I'm wondering if that's just the next step.
No, but that's ultimately
But I don't know if that's the right conclusion though. But yeah,
that's ultimately what I was trying to get at. I think like at that point, like the onus is on men to like bring something other than like the traditional patriarchal, like archetypal, like bullshit.
But is that just theory? You see what I'm saying? Because
it's
I
100%
did make that
just theory.
final point. So I kind of want to address that penultimate point that I'm making, which is that like, our theory is, because we've said it a bunch of times. I've said it, where it's like our theory is cool. Men no longer have access to their side of what was this patriarchal structure. They don't have access to money. They don't have access to education. They don't have access to, access is a strong word there, but they don't have access to being that patriarch nigga from the past. So now there's some imbalances. And so now we're saying men have to be likable, but we're just saying that. Like, is that actually true?
My one thing about it, right? When we have these conversations about, and I wrote down specifically, like my note that I wanted to ask was, are we sure men are expected to be baller ass niggas? Are we absolutely sure about that? Because if you look at the numbers, right? If you look at the numbers, right?
I don't know. That's a great question. That's a great question.
I specifically bring up black relationships because I know those numbers very well, right? Relative fucking economic parity, man.
But then who are these niggas?
That's who.
Like we can't. But no. But that's. But
I mean,
but,
I've also said that I
yeah.
thought this situation impacted black men less. I've also said that. Too.
Okay, well then let's talk about who we're talking about, because I feel like we're doing this thing where we're saying the problem exists, and then when we try and examine it, we're trying to cut its existence out from under it.
No, but when you address the problem, right?
Somebody's not fucking. Like,
no, I need a real world example of how this works practically, right? Or else it's not theory. What I'm trying to do is make the theory practical, and I have a real world example to make the theory practical. And the real world example to make the theory practical is that by and large, on median and on average, black men are not baller ass niggas relative to black women. They're just not. Like on average,
but you're also saying that black men aren't not fucking,
which supports our theory, right? So I'm saying, so if they don't have to do that, right?
So you're saying niggas are more likable? Is that what I'm just trying to get what your point is?
Yeah, I'm saying that like they're working in a situation where like they've learned to be more likable because they're not baller ass niggas by and large. The average black.
So these
man
winterborns aren't likable. They haven't learned how to move.
Maybe
properly.
You should learn how to be likable. Because niggas have learned how to be likable, and like we still get women, like that still works for us.
But
your theory.
I get it.
It's a theory, but I see
there's still a lot.
It's a theory. It's a theory.
Indeed. Okay. Cool.
A film theory. Yeah.
Cool.
Wrong podcast.
But there's like so much that kind of goes into that as well, because like, what if a lot of these black men might be fucking outside of their race, and then you have the Mandingo, caricature or like this highly sex-driven, aspect of black men.
Right.
And then like, because we are sexualized, I think we're the second most sexualized race or some shit like that, in the world. Somehow we're below white people. Apparently white men. White men. But Hollywood, baby, you know what I'm saying? That's what it's designed for.
Thor's pretty cool.
But I wholeheartedly agree with you. The ball is more so in men's court to set this right. We got to look at how men have been treating women. And at the end of the day, even though like nobody is a monolith, everybody has different ways in which they want to be treated. Across the board, women have been treated like shit by a lot of dudes. Like more than the foot has been on the other shoe. You know what I'm saying? So, but with the other thing that Alvin was saying, though, is because I do think that the number might be a bit exaggerated in terms of just placing niggas in that category is just like all men ain't. You didn't say this at all, but it's kind of placing men in that category of like everybody hasn't been shit, because there are a lot of guys who are moving away from that mentality and trying to be the good guy or operating away from what they think women want. That's not toxic. That's not what they were taught, but they're still not getting anywhere. Like they still kind of low-key getting shat on or like, passed up for somebody else, whatever have you. Like they're not getting the results they want. Yeah. So they're just still stuck at zero. Like, well, damn, I tried this and it's not working. And I'm sitting here sad, lonely, maybe heartbroken, what the fuck ever. And I still have no one, or I still feel like the world is, like people are against me just because I'm a man, in a sense. So I feel like that number of men is a little bit bigger.
Yeah. I feel like we need better stats. Like having these conversations, I'm sometimes feeling like we're even Alvin. Like, I'm glad that he's here, but even between the three of us, I feel like we're like trying to rub nickels together because I feel like we just don't have good, strong data about what the fuck is even going on. The more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, who are these niggas? And not in a like these niggas don't exist, but like, what is the prototypical experience of a person who is struggling?
What's the profile? What's the conjoint?
What's the profile?
Like somebody could do that. Somebody could do that.
I want to see that real information because I'm thinking I've been that nigga to certain degrees in my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm a dorky nigga. Like I've experienced parts of what I think this experience is. I've been friends with people who I think are experiencing part of this experience. But the more I think about it, it sounds like this not fucking epidemic, this loneliness epidemic is part of a bigger like isolation thing that's maybe impacting men differently. But I'm like, are niggas actually out here going on a bunch of dates, interacting heavily in their community, meeting other people of men and women, but just constantly getting friend zoned? Or are they actually just not interacting with anybody? Or is it a mixture of both? Like, are incels just niggas in the friend zone, or are they niggas that don't leave the house? Or is it a bit of both? I need to know. Like, I don't know what's going on here.
I think it's a little bit of both, but I tend to, like, with Josh's point specifically, I tend to think that, like, in general, and this was a social media trope for years, you know, like the whole good guy trope, where it's like, you know, I took this girl to Applebee's and like opened the door for her, and like she didn't even want to fuck me on the first night. Women don't even like good niggas.
That's fucked up, man.
Chivalry's dead.
This nigga dropped like $45 at the Applebee's and he could get no pussy. That's crazy.
That was the good guy archetype for so long.
Spread the cheeks.
Sure.
So I definitely think that there's a lot of that, but I do think that, to Josh's point, like there is a category of nigga. There's a non-zero percentage of guys that legitimately is probably like really wonderful people. You know what I'm saying? Really like holding it down, really respectful, and probably just striking out for a lot of for reasons outside of their control.
I also kind of want to shoot some bail to the Applebee's nigga too, like a little bit. I know it's gonna be a little slightly problematic take, but I think going back to something we said before, let a nigga cook for a second. I think that there's something to be said about a person being socialized in a way where they think that their transactional value in dating is, I do this and you do this, and if you're using me for this kind of thing. So I think and we've talked about this before, but I think there's a lot of nice guys who are trying to manipulate with money. I think there are others that are like, this is what the process is, right? I do this thing, and the reason you're reciprocating it is because you're interested in me. And so if not, you've sort of used a social thing so I think there's space there for those kinds of niggas to be like, well, wait a second, you don't have to take anybody to Applebee's. This is about whether or not the other person likes you. So skip the fucking Applebee's. Like, just try and figure out if this person likes you. Well, I mean, kind of, but like maybe not your room, but like you'll get they'll get the no quicker. You know what I'm saying? So like, because your room is crazy. Like that's a very coercive scenario. You know what I'm saying? Don't take it to Applebee's. Lock her in your dungeon. Like that's insane. But I think there's something to be said of being like, no, dude. Actually, it's not about putting nice coins into women. It's not about putting money into women. It's about finding out whether this other person likes you back, and that's how every interaction is supposed to go. And if they don't like you, then they don't like you. And so just sort of remove that transactional element, because if you stop making it a transaction, you can never get cheated out of a situation. So I think that's what I wanted to say, bail shooting wise, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I said you chefed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
I think there's room to have the discussion about how men just being themselves, if they're not being problematic, kind of find what they're looking for. Because, you know, if you're just like being yourself and you're not hurting anybody, I think that you do, you know, it would be phenomenal if you found somebody that just fit within your lifestyle. And I rethought that, and I wanted to shoot that first because my initial conversation was like, I mean, nigga, learn how to play the game. And I was just thinking about how like reductive that can be to guys that are just like being themselves and like being happy with that and like want to and like not want to necessarily, you know what I mean? Like maybe that you're just being yourself. And if you're not being problematic, like where's your space to just be yourself unproblematically, which may not necessarily be like the top tier level of attractiess.
You can do that by yourself
and still
all day.
kind of find something.
I don't think I agree with that. If I'm understanding the point,
I'm not saying that they like. And I was trying to.
Like, you can be yourself in your room all day. Like
I was trying to. I was trying to pick my words carefully. I don't necessarily think that they like.
No, I realize, and I shouldn't have pounced because I was like, let me get the whole, yeah.
I'm trying not to say words like they deserve or like
Sure.
they're entitled to. I'm trying to say words like it would be nice if like a guy.
It'd be nice if I could get some pussy, please.
Yeah, while being yourself. If you're non-problematic and you're just like maybe you're a little shy, maybe you're like a little bit less outgoing, maybe you're like maybe you're like a hardcore like Dungeons and Dragons player, and like you find it a little bit hard to like be Rico Suave or something.
Social anxiety.
Whatever,
like,
yeah.
You got bad social anxiety.
Yeah, it would be nice if you could find somebody. I'm not saying that you deserve. I'm trying not to use words like deserve and entitlement and all that kind of stuff because I don't think anybody's entitled. Yeah, you're worthy of it.
You know what? No, that's a good. See, I'm divided on that because I'm like, yeah, I totally relate to like not using the deserve entitled thing because I think a lot of times these conversations devolve into women need to start fucking losers kinds of a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think there's other solutions that don't put the burden on like individual women, which is like if you just increase overall interactions, I think a lot like if you have, which is I think schools and institutions and churches, they do this kind of stuff. They have mixers, they have balls, they have proms, and you can only take one person to the prom. They do things like this to go, cool, you're socially anxious. It's really difficult to talk to anybody, let alone somebody who probably doesn't fucking like you, to ask them out, to show your personality in just the right light to where they see the aspects of you that they're attracted to. Cool, that's really difficult. How can we help facilitate that? And so I think that there are society level things we can do to help facilitate that. Whether it's apps, whether it's not, it's events, functions, whatever, to get people out of the house and being together. But I don't think anybody can be themselves and get pussy or dick for that matter. Like I think that you got to play the game a little bit, and I think for men more so, no matter what we do.
Yeah.
No matter how much we facilitate, I think you just gotta. I don't know, maybe that's wrong, but I think that might just be it is what it is. Like that just might just be a fluke of biology that's just what you got to do.
I ain't told one lie.
Man,
but I will say that it probably takes me longer. So I imagine a nigga like Josh, right? Josh probably like hit the bar and probably can like get some positive feedback.
Sure.
Relatively soon, right? So like
nigga operationalized it. Let's see, positive
so
feedback.
So like I'm gonna have to have conversation, right? And my conversation is gonna have to be like lengthy. Because I'm gonna be myself, and my first 30 minutes of conversation, you're gonna be like, "Man, fuck this
it's
guy."
An epilogue,
yeah, like I want to hit this nigga in the throat. But like 45 minutes to an hour, you're like, "Oh, I kind of see the vision. I kind of understand."
Yeah, understood. Yeah,
you know what?
You need the background. You got to read the footnotes first. Yeah, got to get to the whole table of contents.
And I mean, you're not totally wrong, but even for me though, like I keep telling y'all niggas, I'm not as smooth as y'all think I am. I just have moments.
We're not saying you smooth. We just saying you're tall and look nice. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I'm saying that, and I think you smoother than you think.
That's also true. That's also true.
I think you smoother than you.
You just said I wasn't. Don't do that, bro.
I didn't say. I said you're smoother than you think. That's still not much.
You said no. Ain't nobody said you were smooth, bro.
I mean, yeah. Look,
but anywho. But ultimately, what I'm just trying to say.
I agree with you so strong.
Nah, nigga, goddamn. I'm trying to tell you, nigga, I actually meant that you the smoothest motherfucker alive.
That's what I was trying to say. I said it backwards. You know what I'm saying? That's what I meant. Yeah.
Well, I keep trying to tell you, nigga, because I'm not.
Okay.
Because, like, even for me, like, I'm not rizzed up like that. Like, because it's not difficult for me to get in the door. But
you can't get past
it ain't. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, and a lot of times I'm like, well, this ain't going right. I ain't feeling this. And you're said something wrong there.
Yeah.
Or like they'll just not respond. Like that happens to me often, and I think that happens in just dating a lot too. But that's also another thing, because you gotta be willing to play the numbers game. I think that's also one thing we kind of missing out on. It's like some will, some won't. So what? And me personally, I hate it. I hate sales. And that's the numbers game. I hate dating because I value my peace.
Yeah. It's an anxiety-inducing
It's draining. It's money. It's so much shit.
Either.
No one likes rejection. You got to spend time with somebody you're not even sure you like, and then they get on you. Like, so much stuff that goes into it to play that numbers game. And that's just, for me, us the niggas that live to play the game, that love it. You know what I'm saying? They can't stand being
Yeah.
by themselves, no matter
Yeah.
who they got with them. And
Somebody.
I think for a lot of people who do have social anxiety, that is extremely difficult to play that numbers game so you actually can
yeah.
find your person. Because you got to kiss a lot of frogs to get to that to your prince or your
Yeah.
princess.
Yeah, I feel like we need profiles of this shit because I feel like this conversation. I feel like the more and more we talk about it, I feel like nobody has any idea what the fuck they're even talking about. Like I feel like the niggas on these Fresh and Fit podcasts, these alpha male podcasts, who are they're 40-year-old men interviewing 19-year-old like OnlyFans models trying to get like an actual picture of what the fuck is going on with men who aren't having sex. It's like I don't think we have any fucking idea without some proper real like psych models of what the fuck is going on. To go, here's an example of this type of nigga. Is he problematic? Does he actually deserve to be in a relationship with somebody? Okay, maybe, but heavy social anxiety, doesn't socialize a lot, doesn't have a bunch of money. How do we get him out into the world? Like, yeah, I don't know. And yeah, going to a bar and talking to, you know, if you're not a looker to where apps are doing well for you, going to a bar and you socially anxious, you're gonna do even worse. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't look good enough to where you could do it on the app and you socially anxious, and you try and go to a bar and just fumble and bumble some crazy ass terrible
if you can't angle your way to some,
you definitely not
swipes.
talking your way in. Like
I don't know.
on.
Prep time.
I don't
Prep
know.
time. If you
Yeah,
can't Batman
sorry,
your
sorry.
way through some shit, you know.
Huh?
Some niggas got that silver tongue, bro. They some niggas got the riz that don't look that good, but that's a skill set. That's a specialized skill set that not everyone is blessed to have. But there was actually one thing I did kind of want to go back to, that discussion about men and community and how important that is for us to maybe get on a better, healthier track, at least to start with ourselves first.
I ultimately agree in the point that like I think that like that level of community can kind of bring people out of their shell. Like I say it all the time. Like I was a very like socially anxious kind of like kid, and like just like organically being in situations where I was a little bit more out in the streets and learning from like niggas that were a little bit older than me kind of helped me a little bit socially, like quite a bit. So I 100% think that it can have that kind of effect from itself. But I also, and me and Eddie have talked about this on one of the pods where you weren't on, Josh, where I think that a lot of people push community as a substitute for these niggas fucking, and I don't think that community is a substitute for the incel community not fucking. Like I think they're gonna be like, man, I really love you guys. You know, you guys go to the game with me. We drink a couple whiskeys and all that kind of shit, and you know. But I sure this does not make up for the fact.
If I could, does any of y'all niggas have some pussy on you that you could spare a nigga?
I would
'Cause
throw
if you
all
got
of this away
a
right
Monaco,
now.
I really don't even like y'all niggas that much, honestly.
I would do for a crumb of coochie at least.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Just a
I would.
crumb.
Oh, I would sell all of you and all of your families into slavery if I could just get.
My God.
Honestly, just
But
for
I love
a
this
hand.
community dearly.
Oh,
I love
whip of
this
some
community
panties.
Hey,
dearly.
look,
I
think
would
it's great.
settle for a whiff
Honestly.
of some freshly used panties right about now. At least.
Look, Thomas, if you shave, honestly, we can make something work. I just need something, honestly. Yeah, I think
These Madden tournaments and this COD is not making up
It's
for
not
this
enough.
lack of fucking, in my opinion. And I know me and Eddie had a whole fucking segment about that, but
yeah, I mean, I partially disagree, but I also think community leads to pussy.
That's what I said before. That's what I led with that point.
But it has to be the right community, because if you are in such a community as possibly a red pill community and all the niggas around you is just talking about, oh, we hate these bitches ain't shit. Like you still gonna be, you still gonna go out into the world fucked because you're not interacting with women or the women that you're gonna attract. It's not gonna be what you need. Like it's not gonna be what you really want.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just a mental picture of like niggas just sitting in a barbershop doing that shit. It just got me.
Rada, bitches.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. That's true.
And that also goes vice versa too, because the womanosphere is a real thing.
I don't think they struggling with getting dick though.
Oh, they're not struggling with getting dick, but they are struggling with finding relationships, understanding men, being in committed relationships.
That's true.
And even recognizing what a good man or what a good man looks like.
A real nigga,
yeah. Real man.
Yeah, I don't. Because I'm just wondering, like, because it's true. Like, socially isolated, low social adeptness niggas have always not fucked a bunch. Like I feel like that's always. I mean, I think could be anecdotal, but I think that's always been the case. So when I think about dorky niggas in their D&D group or at the comic convention, I don't know why I'm saying they're like it's other niggas. Me at the comic convention or playing D&D, it's like you can have a group of lots of niggas and lots of community, and it not be no women involved in that. But at the same time, that hasn't really been my experience. It might have been like slightly lower, but even in those dorky circles, there's women in that, but it might be a little bit lower. But there is that stereotype of like, yeah, it's a group of 8 dork ass niggas in great community. They ain't no other groups of 8 dork ass niggas, and there's no women. Like Stranger Things before they met 11. You know what I'm saying? Like they got hella community. It's just no bitches. Like
and then they was willing to throw all that shit away when the new girl came in town. I forget her name.
They said, "Hey, look, look."
Sam, what's it? Sam,
the redhead girl.
Sadie Sink. What's her character's name?
I forget,
Sam?
but it was
Sam. Yeah.
But they was willing to throw all that shit away, bro. They was willing to throw all that shit away.
I don't give a fuck about. Yeah, we been. Yeah. Yo,
Caleb was like, "Fuck you, man. We'll fight."
I'm done. I'm playing football now. I'm a nigga now.
Right, I'm a whole nigga.
He fucked one redhead. Was like, yo, I'm a football playing ass nigga. I ain't fucking with y'all dark ass niggas. He moved on so quick. Just said fuck that whole friend group.
But no, he came back. He came back though.
Yeah,
he realized where his true friends were.
He did. He did. Yeah. He led niggas amok and everything. He did it. Yeah.
So all right. And I guess this is okay. So I guess I'll just speak for myself, but I think there's something to it that a lot of men might be able to relate to if they just kind of take the idea that pussy will solve all your problems out of their head.
Yeah.
Because it's not. It's nice. It's nice, but you can't drown your sorrows in pussy.
Well,
I mean, you can, but
this nigga.
I mean, well, we don't gotta lie. Like, let's not. Let's not say shit that's not true. Like, yeah.
Okay, my
helps.
apologies.
You know what I'm saying? Like, aloe vera ain't gonna solve your burn, but it definitely makes shit feel better.
But okay, once again, going back to myself then.
Yes.
When you deal with like, if you like really in tune with your emotions, like you said, you feeling depressed, like you dealing with depression and all sorts of other shit. Fucking is not about. I could never fuck my way out of depression. Like you can't do it. It don't work like that.
Cool.
And
fair.
And it's not. And then like I remember I had somebody I was talking to, like at one point, like socially we were kind of on the same level. She's like, oh yeah, my friends are they're off. I was like, yeah, me too. Like, hey, let's hang out. But she went on Bumble BFF and like started going out more, and then like got new friends and got even more community on top of the friends that she kind of already had that came back around. And now all of a sudden she has a whole ass life, and I'm still at home. Like, yep.
Damn.
My friends are still friending, and they still out. Yeah. Like I'm still just here. I'm just still by myself most of the time. It's not that easy for me to have that community. Like nobody here is in the same state. I can't just pick up and get in my car and drive to Eddie or drive to Alvin, or whatever. So, but it's that having that community does help, especially if you have a healthy community and a healthy bond. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, and
that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, and I still sure, community is not a replacement for pussy, but I think more importantly, pussy's not a replacement for community. And I think that's the thing that we like. If you got to pick one, it's like one is giving you way more than the other. If it's just that thing and just that thing, like romantic connection is great, but if you're having just having sex is really not providing that much crazy value to your life.
All right.
Even if it feels that way, yeah.
What y'all picking? Community or pussy?
You already know what I'm picking. You
I mean, yeah. You already picked.
Yeah. You already know what I'm picking. I already know what Alvin picking though. Yeah, I know what Alvin picking though. He said, "Give me that pussy." I don't need the community shit. 6 seasons in a movie. I don't need any of it.
I'm choosing the money.
Give me that pussy. Yeah.
I can get money with pussy.
Yeah.
Simple.
That's true.
What?
Some sort of Ponzi scheme.
In the pimp game, baby.
Like this.
Pimping is a pyramid.
It's a pyramid.
Scheme, yeah.
Fucking
pussy pyramid scheme. That's what Alvin gonna do.
What's old boy? Never mind. Who got canceled on like every platform? You know what I'm talking about?
Andrew Tate?
Yeah, I'm fucking the new Andrew Tate apparently.
I can see it. I low key. I can see.
Just in the other way.
Yeah. Alvin could, because I feel like he has the energy to where he could be that you know what I'm saying? Like if he had different beliefs, he could be a ringer for like a new Kev Samuels, Andrew Tate type if he believed those things.
Are you saying? Wait a minute, time out. Are you saying this isn't a Red Pill podcast?
No, I didn't mean to imply that. That was not my implication.
Because if this is not an Alpha Male podcast, we can end this arrangement right now. I thought this was an Alpha Male podcast.
But without you, it wouldn't be. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay.
You bring the whole room up. Thermometer.
I do feel way more toxic whenever you're around.
Likewise.
Hey, gang.
Stay toxic, brothers. Yeah.
Passport bros.
Feeding from off the dark side. Yo, that passport. We gotta close in a second. But have you seen? Okay, so we're trying to keep this bit short and then we'll close it. But the passport bro shit. Have you seen clips about that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
I am not mad at the movement, but the ideology behind the movement, I have a problem with.
See, I don't. Okay, because I'm not understanding like what the movement is versus what's like it's a movement. Because I just thought it was niggas with passports, but then I start seeing replies, and I'm like, are these niggas like pedophile? Like, what's going on?
No.
Like, what is the situation?
I
don't know what's going on. So there's a movement? What is it? Yeah.
It's like
what's Al laughing at?
I don't know. That was dying.
This nigga just went into full like podcast mode. He was like, okay, so it's a movement. Tell me about your movement. Tell me about what's going on.
I'm trying to be a journalist, bro.
Like, yeah.
He's not taking me seriously. I seen a nigga in the comments say, I don't know. They said I don't know how to read. I was like, yo, look, I just said I don't read sometimes. I know how to read.
Larry, he went full Larry King in the way that he was like interrogating.
Oh yeah, I mean, hey man, he's genuinely
so tell
curious.
Tell me about this
bro.
Movement.
Don't even know it. It's like, am I a passport bro?
That's
have I joined the movement?
That's what I'm. Yeah, because it don't sound good. It don't sound good. Like passport bro sound like a slur. Like way I've been seeing it being used. So what's that mean?
Yeah, because so basically, the movement itself is like to have guys get their passports, get out into the world, see the world. However, the underlying toxicity of it from like red pill-esque or straight up red pill niggas that really advocate and maybe like really push it hard is that the women in America are trash and you need to get out ASAP and find your girl in another country because they're more feminine, docile, whatever word that they like to use.
Gotcha.
That's
the implication I was getting.
Yeah, that's kind of the messaging.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I ain't got no problem being a bro with a passport, but if
but not a passport bro. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
You know, I mean, damn.
Because I'm like, why are niggas mad at why are we getting mad at niggas for having passports? I got a passport. What'd I do? I mean, I'm a bro, I guess. What does that mean?
Right.
But it's like there's a specific movement of niggas specifically looking to move out to get away from modern American Western women.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
modern women.
Which people are characterizing, or at least the flavor seems to be them characterizing this as some form of sex tourism, which has existed in some form for forever, but it seems like it's starting to kind of extend to black men. But because it seems like white men been doing this shit since forever, going to Asia and since '93 till infinity. They've been going to like Asia and getting a little poor lady that they can take advantage of, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the whole 90 Day Fiance thing is seemed like it's just that. Yeah. It's just weird sex tourism, but just as a reality TV show, which is just insane to me. But yeah.
I saw 90 Day Fiance. They had a lot of foreigners. Oh, never mind.
The most famous one, yeah, okay.
Yes, yeah. The short guy.
The little neck nigga, yeah.
Yeah. Goddamn.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, anyway, look, guys, it's been an excellent podcast. Listeners, everybody, this has been Late Night WTRF. You know what I mean? Bringing you the news from all four corners of the globe.
WTRF. Popping ass open.
Oh, Eddie. Well, look, man. If you're having trouble connecting in your community, you may be seeing a red flag. But at the same time, you know what I'm saying. If you're arguing on the internet about whether or not you should be able to, go to other countries to get away from American modern females, it might be you just waving the red flag. It's been Waving the Red Flag podcast. It's Eddie, it's Josh, it's Alvin. Join us on Patreon before every episode if you want to, talk to us live, if you want to support us. Get your friends to join the shit because honestly, the more people who do Patreon shit, The more of this content we can put out, the more time we can put to it, etc., etc. Subscribe. Let us know what you think. We'll see y'all next week. Peace, peace. That's it. Get to bed. Feed your kids. Wash your car.
Count your
nails.
eggs and wash your ducks, nigga.
That's what I'm saying. P's and Q's. Peace, peace.
Cross your I's and dot your T's, nigga.
Preach on it.
It's a red flag.